Before we get to today's career journey, I'd like to thank Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this episode. Surfshark VPN is essential for any student who works remotely as much as I do. If you don't want prying eyes while you're enjoying a horchata almond milk frappuccino at your local Starbucks, then get Surfshark VPN today. You'll be able to surf social media and stream your favorite content stress-free, knowing Surfshark has you and your data covered. The average person spends 6 to 8 hours online daily, so privacy is really important. Surfshark VPN encrypts all internet traffic to and from your computer and provides the level of privacy all students and parents desire. Surfshark VPN also blocks pesky ads, I hate those, trackers, malware, and shady people from getting your private data. And the best part about Surfshark is they allow me to access my streaming content anywhere in the world. I can enjoy The Tick in Tunisia, Monk in Malaysia, and The Big Bang Theory in Bangkok. Just for our listeners, you can try Surfshark VPN today with 83% off and a free month. Just use promo code LearnFromOthers to sign up. Keep yourself safe with Surfshark today.
This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Well, welcome to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest today, Tom Burton. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Well, before you tell us what you're actually doing today, if you would, could you tell me what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, it's funny. Early on, I wanted to work in the park system. So not necessarily a park ranger, but like a naturalist initially. But then I fell in love with basketball. So like many of my friends, I wanted to play in the NBA, which for those listening, you haven't heard of Tom Burton, the basketball player, for a reason.
Right. Okay. So why is that? Are you not tall enough or not skilled enough? Or a little bit of both?
well, I don't know. It's funny. At one point, I certainly felt I was both. But the nice thing with sports, a lot of times that, you have that awakening where you just kind of realize that you just didn't have it. So I worked really hard, and I'll talk about that in a little bit because I think it's a great message. But ultimately, I just didn't have what it took to to make it to the NBA. So, which is okay.
That'd be pretty interesting to hear that story because I've had some NFL athletes, and one of my previous guests was an NFL athlete for like 3 months and then got injured and had to have a backup plan. So, yeah, that's interesting when you kind of got to make a big career change like that. Well, tell us, you said you're not a professional basketball player. So what are you today? What is your day job?
I am a school superintendent at Princeton City Schools, and very proud to be so. And I love what I do each and every day. Very challenging, for sure. And Princeton is actually the most diverse school district in the state of Ohio. And we have about 6,500 students, and we're located just outside of Cincinnati.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so I've never met a school superintendent before, so this is exciting for me. And I've always wondered, how do you become a superintendent? What's that career path like? Why would you want to become a superintendent? So if you would, just take us from the moment of, I guess, go through your basketball career. It sounds like it was a lot of stuff you had to figure out, and then your educational career up to today.
It's interesting. I grew up in a really, really diverse area. In fact, say it was lower socioeconomic where I was born and raised. Actually, where I was raised. Interestingly, the community switched over quite a bit to lower socioeconomic. My parents felt like it was the world that we were living in and was diverse, and so to move away from that diverse setting actually would not allow us to learn at the rate that we probably needed to learn and experience myself and my 2 sisters. So ultimately, in that beautiful environment, loved it each and every day. Sports is really, really big. And, I played a lot of basketball, fell in love with it. It was absolutely the worst sport I played early on. If you listen to, my dad was here, he would interrupt me and say I should have played football. I had the gift of a pretty decent arm and understood the game. My dad was a big coach, and so I think it came a little bit naturally. But stopped playing that in 9th grade. Ran cross country only to stay in shape for basketball. And then I played baseball. So I did that 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I think I was marginally successful, nothing significant. But love basketball. I did one drill every single day from 6th grade on and through my college playing days. And it was one shooting drill, and I did it over and over and over again. And for those people that would, play basketball with me, whether it was college or outside of college, would probably, and respectfully, they would probably say I was a pretty good shooter. And that's because I did this one drill over and over ad nauseum. And that's, I think, the message that, I've talked to multiple people before about, like, failed dreams. So my dream was to play in the NBA, and I did this drill over and over. I played in these leagues and played, junior college, and I was at Texas Tech for a little bit and then finished at Slippery Rock University Division II school in Pennsylvania, but never really did anything anywhere, but still loved it and worked hard every day. Now, I didn't make it, didn't play in the NBA, but ultimately the message or the kind of takeaway for me was I learned, like, dedication. I learned perseverance. I learned, like, you have to be so relentless in your pursuit, because I would say I think I did everything I possibly could have to make it at this really high level, but I never did.
Right.
But I don't have any regrets at all because I know that I worked every day at it. Anyway, I think those lessons, like, once I found out what I really wanted to do, so I didn't want to be a naturalist anymore, fell in love with teaching and coaching, and I did that. I started a very small parochial school in Willoughby, Ohio, and I was coaching at the time too, volleyball as well as basketball, and then so I did that for a little bit, went to Mexico, lived down there, ran the sports program, played some basketball down there, had some good opportunities down there. Came back home, taught and coached at a college for 3 years, and then went back to my middle-level alma mater, Monticello Junior High, and that's when things really started to turn for me. The giving back to a community that gave so much to me was really critical. And so I coached 5 sports, finished my master's, was really, really active in the community, and just knew that for me to really accomplish some of the goals and dreams that I had from an educational perspective, I needed to have that dogged pursuit, the relentless pursuit of educational excellence, if you will. So I finished my master's, went back to school, got my administrative license through John Carroll, then ended up getting a job as an assistant principal, and I was there for 3 years, then moved to be a principal for 3 years. Had a great staff, worked hard, great student body, had a lot of work to do, but the staff was amazing, and we ended up posting great results and really kind of turned around a culture, which is wonderful. And then I went from there to be a middle school principal at another school district, and again, great staff, worked real hard, saw a lot of improvement, tremendous opportunities for students, and then went into be a director, administrative services, and then from there moved down to Cincinnati from Cleveland and to be an associate superintendent. I was that for 3 years, and now superintendent for the last 2.
Wow. Okay. So that's quite a career trajectory you just laid out there. So if you would tell me, at what point did you decide you wanted to pursue teaching beyond athletics, and what was that?
Sure.
Like, what made you say, I want to become a principal, I want to keep on going? Like, was there a moment, or was it just you wanted to continue to improve yourself? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Sure, I will. And you know what, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that during the time when I was an assistant principal, I went back to get my PhD, which I never did, but along the way I got what's called an educational specialist degree along with my superintendent's license. I don't want anybody to think that all you needed was, any administrative degree to become a superintendent. So you need additional coursework beyond that. So that's what I did.
Okay.
But, it was interesting. I remember talking to some of my colleagues at Monticello Middle School. And when I was there, I just said, I feel like I can do more. And they kind of laughed because, I'm coaching 5 sports. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm on all these committees. But I think it was that being so busy and giving a lot to a lot of different committees and organizations. And you hear people say, boy, you would be great to go in administration. And so that kind of got me thinking, and that's why I did it initially. And feeling like I could do more and I could expand my circle of influence, if you will.
Right.
So that's why I went into administration and have done a lot with student leadership, and have always loved being around the students. Great kids, and I say there really aren't bad kids. There are great kids who make really bad decisions, but by and large, been really blessed with a great student body.
Right. Now tell me, what is your typical work week or work month like? Whichever one makes more sense for your job.
Mm-hmm. So Princeton has one high school, well, actually two high schools. There's Innovation Center and a Princeton High School, a middle school, and 8 elementary schools. So my goal is to get every 2 weeks to get inside every building. And I would say that as an associate superintendent, I did it for sure. And for the first maybe year and a quarter, I've done that as a superintendent. Now, lately we've been battling some what I would say would be short-sighted legislation with the state. And so I've turned a lot of my energy there to advocate for public schools. And so by doing that, it's kind of pulled me away from some of the visibility of being in and out of schools. Although typically, I'm in and out of them, but I'm not in and out of them like I used to be. So a typical day, if you look at today, I was up actually working out about 5 o'clock, finished working out, went to our rec center, started there at 6, did some other things at 5, went there at 6. And came back home, got ready, was in the office about 7:15, 7:30. I had, a couple meetings early on, and then I had my administrative cabinet. From there, went to community organization, our Rotary Club, because we had a speech competition, which one of our students was in. And then went and did classroom visitations at one of the elementary schools. Taught for like 5 minutes with a class. The teachers were phenomenal where we're at right now, and so being able to, they just kind of gave me the marker and just said go, because they know, I love the students. And so I helped teach a math class, and then came back, had a meeting about some real estate. And then from there, went to another elementary school, and then took about 10 calls between the elementary school and driving around the district. Had a lot of questions about some funding issues and some other things going on right now. And then after this podcast, I'll be back in the office till about 6:45, and then going to a concert tonight at 7. I'll be back home about 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Now, what kind of concert is it?
It's a high school vocal concert. We had a symphonic band. We had a band concert last night. My son plays in a symphonic band, so I was able to see him, which is great. And tonight will be the choir, and we have great, unbelievable music program. In fact, we've really nationally recognized. Year over year, we get the best communities in music education. There's a lot of other awards that we receive, and we have students playing all over the world, really. So it's a great program.
Yeah, so it sounds like you are involved in every aspect. I mean, I heard involved in the programs, you're involved in funding, you're involved in the campuses, you're involved in the student body, you're involved in the community through the Rotary Club. Is that correct? I mean, you're kind of involved in a lot of different things to make sure it all works.
Yes, and I try to be. And I'm a member of the Kiwanis, and there's many other organizations that I'm involved in. But I would say, like, when people try to kind of synthesize the job of a superintendent down to maybe a sentence or two, when people say, do you do all these things? Are you involved in, and they list 4 or 5, I just say yes. So it's a very eclectic job. And it's quite frankly, sometimes it's manic, right? You have some of the greatest days you've ever had in your life as a superintendent, and then you've had some pretty bad days when you're speaking at a funeral. Unfortunately, I've spoken at 3 students' funerals. And so those are terrible parts of the job that you never want to have any experience in at all. And, at that point, you're trying to help heal and bring people together and just, be a source of support for a community. So literally, probably no matter what you'd say, I probably had some type of experience with some I'd be very proud of, and others I would say I wish I never had that experience.
Right. So it is quite a lot to keep track of and to be involved in, and I can see why you never have a dull day, correct?
Well, I don't have a dull day. And, it's, just like today, the young man spoke. He did such a great job. He talked with so much pride, and his eyes lit up when he was talking about our music program. And he had to give, kind of defend what he was talking about using a 4-way test from Rotary. And it was, he did an amazing job. And there were 4 finalists, and he finished 4th.
Right.
And I tell you, the other 3 kids were amazing as well and deserved what they received. But talking to him after, the thing that made me so proud is that he was not upset. He was proud of what he did. His grandmother was proud. Tim Walker, who's one of our assistant principals, was there. Chrissy Grable, who's our guidance counselor for 11th grade, she was there. My associate, Dr. Mary Phillips, was there. And everybody said the same thing. We're just so proud of who A.J. White is, the young man's name, just so proud of how he represented himself and how proud he was of Princeton. And so when you have those experiences and you watch a student so composed and just so prideful of the school he goes to, you can't be any happier to be a leader in the district.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's for sure. And I'm sure seeing students succeed in such a way really makes you excited for the job and everybody that's involved in what's going on, right?
Oh, for sure. And it's funny because we have, any superintendent will tell you, they certainly have their days that aren't the best at all. But when you have a district that, recently we were recognized as a top 20 school district in the country to watch in 2020 for our innovative practices and what we're doing. So that was great. It was awesome to talk about that experience. And, we do that a lot because, there could be something negative that happens. And quite frankly, there's so many positive things, so many more positive things than negative.
As a reminder, you can check out all previous episodes at learnfromothers.org. And if you're an educator or a student, you can search for podcasts by career cluster. So, Tom, we learned what you wanted to be when you grew up, which was an NBA player. And that didn't happen, unfortunately. But we learned what you're doing today, which is a school superintendent. So if you would, looking back on your career, what would you do differently?
I did not maximize my learning in high school at all.
Okay.
Literally at all. And I found myself in college being really behind the 8 ball, especially when it comes to English. And the irony is that I had a column for several years in the largest middle-level journal or magazine in the world, and it was called Middle Ground at that point. And I had a revolving column, and it was great. It was called Mark of Leadership, and they allowed me to write on anything that I wanted to, and so I had a tremendous time doing it. But it was ironic because here I was, this person didn't maximize learning for sure, especially in English.
Right.
And then here I was, having a column. And in fact, later on, wrote a book with the same title name of the column called Mark of Leadership. So, to get to that point, I think, looking back, for sure looking back, I would have maximized my opportunities. I would have read a lot more. Although ultimately I wouldn't want to change where I am right now, and I think things happen for a reason. So I'm where I'm supposed to be. I love my job. I'm blessed. 33 years in education.
Wow. Yeah, and I would agree. I was probably the same. I did not maximize myself in high school as well. I hit honor roll and stuff, but I could have done so much more if I had just applied myself a little bit more. So I have somewhat of the same regret looking back. So I can definitely share that with you.
I don't even know if I knew what honor roll was when I was in high school. I think I barely had a 2-point. And after that, after college or whatever, I very rarely saw anything other than an A. But, we're having to work doubly hard, and certainly harder than most of my peers in college, to earn the same type of grades or in some cases higher, maybe in some cases a little bit lower, but ultimately having to work that so much harder because of all this wasted opportunity. I would never want anybody to have to do that, that's for sure.
Right. Now, let's talk to the student who would like to do what you do to become a superintendent. What advice would you give them? Is there a typical career path?
Obviously, I think it's critical to be a teacher and have that experience. I would encourage anybody who wants to be a superintendent to stay in the classroom longer than what they think that they should. It's the most amazing profession there is. And while I love my job, it's hard to ever replace the experience that you have in a classroom. And that's so great. And then ultimately, I went at Rush to get to the superintendency. At one point, I was trying to do that. I think I was really short-sighted by doing so. But, being a teacher, being involved in lots of different committees and trying to gain an understanding from the teacher's perspective, what administrators go through, and then move to be an assistant principal, going to central office, and then ultimately, as you matriculate through these different positions, I think you gain perspective that will serve you well as a superintendent. And then obviously there's a lot of education that happens too.
Right. Yep. And you can learn from each of the different roles, gain that level of experience that, when you're in the superintendent role, you can relate to all the folks you're dealing with on a daily basis. So that's really great advice. Well, now, are there any projects you're working on that you would like to share?
Well, we're really, really proud of what we're doing with our career pathways because we're a comprehensive high school. So in Ohio, the career centers kind of take care of the jobs that, maybe more HVAC. There could be some computer work, but by and large, maybe advanced manufacturing, and you look at being a nurse or a police officer or something. All those jobs are basically handled by the career centers. So for the comprehensive, it would be traditionally more for college bound, although there's a lot of kids in career centers that go to college. So it's not a, whatever word I'm looking for. Sorry, I'm already on to my next thought. So my next thought is this. So as a comprehensive high school, a lot of times, they look for how many kids are going to college. And our biggest thing that we've been working on for the last 2 years is making sure that each student has a career pathway. So whether it's college or it's going directly into the military or career, we want to make sure that we're maximizing that opportunity for students. So we have over 425 business partners. We have our business partnership breakfasts are huge. We had over 300 at the last one. And we put students in front of business leaders, and they actually learn from each other. And it's so amazing, and I think that's one of the reasons why we were recognized as being an innovative school district, because it is so different what we're doing. So we wrote a big grant. We're able to earn the grant. And by doing so, we've hired an amazing employee, Tanya Key, who's working with our career counselor at the high school, Andrea Burrows, and they work collectively to ensure that each of our students has a career pathway. So we have over 100 kids right now that are placed outside of the school that work during the school day, whether it's internship, job shadow, and irrespective of what the students are, what their pathway is, whether, again, college, or military, or directly into the workforce, those students, we have a beautiful diversity of students that are out there and working and getting these authentic experiences. So we're really proud of that, and that's a big component, big push for us. And we also were able to ensure that we have students that are entering the 9th grade next year that have an opportunity to earn an associate's degree before they even graduate from high school. So we're really excited about that as well, and many other things. But those are kind of the big ticket items, if you will, making sure that we have students that specifically have a pathway after they graduate. It seems so basic, but I assure you that there's not a lot of schools that can authentically say, we know the pathway that each of our graduates is on. And we've assured that we know the college they're going to, we know the branch of military they're going to, and we know the work, the company, where they're going, and that's what we're doing this year.
Wow, that's huge. Really mapping it out so that the students have a clear goal going forward for the education. That's really, really cool. What's the best way for our students to learn more about you or your school district?
Well, if people follow Twitter, or if you have a Twitter account, you could go to @VikingDiff, VikingDiff, and that's Twitter. Our Instagram is @VikingDiff1. And if anybody would like to, if you had any questions, you could reach me at tburton, Burton, @vikingmail.org. I'd love to hear from you, or else you could direct message me on Twitter or Instagram. Love to continue the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking us on your career journey today, Tom.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And as I always say, go Vikes.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.